I recently got the Criterion channel because all of the movies I love and want to watch are on there. Spent the night adding movies to my list to review for the channel, and the first movie was an absolute gem. Welcome to this week's episode of Not Mainstream. Today we will be talking about Late Spring by Yasujiro Ozu.
お前、服部さんどう思
どうって？
う？服部だよ。
いい方じゃないの。
うん。ああいうのはテイストしてどうなんだろ
いいでしょきっと。
う。いいかい？
優しいし。
そうか。
A widower professor, Shikichi, lives with his unmarried daughter, Noriko, who runs his household for him. Both Noriko and her father are deeply content with the arrangement they have until the old man's sister raises concerns that Noriko is not getting married. Noriko is in her mid-20s in 1949's Japan, and it is vastly unusual that she's not getting married as she grows older. Sushiki's sister warns him that when it's time to pass, Noriko will be left alone in the world with no one to take care of her. However hard it may be to break out of their comfortable pattern, the right thing to do is to take the step toward a new life. Late Spring came out in 1949 in Japan during the occupied powers occupation. This led the film being subject to the occupation's official censorship requirements. This meant that the depictions of relationships between the Japanese and the US soldiers were not to be shown, the aesthetic ideals of people were strictly met, and the thoughts of arranged marriages were kept under the table. Late Spring is a type of Japanese cinema known as shomen-geki, a genre dealing with the ordinary lives of working and middle-class people during the time. This film was written and directed by Yasujiro Ozu, who is widely regarded as one of the most influential filmmakers of all time. Ozu began his career with silent films in the early 1900s and eventually had his last few films colorized in the late 1960s. Ozu has a very unique style that has influenced films all throughout history. I'm happy to say that we will be reviewing a few more of his films in the future, and I'm excited for those. Late Spring was really quite a beautiful film in all senses of the word. I want to touch on two things that stood out to me, and then I want you all to go watch this film for yourself. First off, the cinematography. Ozu has a unique style in which he uses depth and space to tell a story. The camera shots in Late Spring were shot with a low but straight-on angle, as if you were sitting on the floor as the Japanese did when they ate and drank tea. This allows the audience to get intimate with the characters and believe you're in the exact same room with them. One of the other techniques Ozu uses, which inspired me to create my own short film, is the use of depth and space. Many of the shots in this film were shot at the end of the hallway, with the action being at the other. Using this depth creates a beautiful image of the surroundings, yet drawing your eye to where the action is. Ozu also rarely moved the camera. Most of the shots were still and composed in the most artful and beautiful ways. Secondly, I wanted to touch on the story and the meaning behind it. As I mentioned before, Noriko is content with her life living with her father and doesn't want things to change by getting married. There is one scene in particular of the father explaining the necessity to get out of one's comfort zone and to create happiness that has stuck with me ever since I watched the film. Noriko's father says this: "Marriage may not mean happiness from the start. To expect such immediate happiness is a mistake. Happiness isn't something to wait around for. It's something you create yourself. Happiness comes only through effort." This quote can be seen as only applying to marriage in this film, but I think this applies to life itself. So much of the time we sit around waiting for happiness to come to us, and oftentimes it never does. When we're challenged, when we seek discomfort, and when we look to create happiness for ourselves, that is when we truly find it. Ozu places this life lesson perfectly in this marvel of a film. Late Spring is streaming on Max, the Criterion channel, and is available to rent on Prime Video. I look forward to your thoughts on this beautiful film. I'll see you next week with another film review on Not Mainstream.